Yeah, no, I said I was sorry that she couldn't do the thing she wanted to do. So she actually just looked at me and she said, it doesn't matter. And I was so angry. And I just wanted to shake her and say, what do you mean it matters? Like, do you know what I mean? Let it matter. But she was just like, it doesn't matter. The world has honestly missed out on the most incredible person.
This podcast is recorded on the lands of the Gadigal people, one of the 29 clan groups that make up the Eora Nation. We acknowledge the traditional owners who are connected to this land and acknowledge their unbroken connection and sovereignty to all the lands that now make up Australia. We extend that acknowledgement to all of the traditional owners connected to the country you may be listening to this podcast from. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Before we get into today's episode, we do want to warn listeners there is some content that could be triggering for some people. If there's anything that's brought up today that affects you, know there is someone out there to listen. Make sure you call Lifeline on 13 11 14. Hello and welcome back to When We Grow Up, the podcast where we ask where we've been to know where we're going. We're your hosts. I'm Marlee Silva.
And I'm Nicho, Hynes.
And today we are joined by the incredible Sue-Ellan, who is the founder of Little Legs, a foundation we're going to talk a lot about today. But what is really special is knowing the fact, Sue-Ellan, that you have never been on a podcast before. This is a first time you're having a taste of doing something like this, sitting here on the couch with us.
Yes.
You've been a little bit nervous.
Very nervous.
How do you feel about the setup though?
Oh, it's fine. I'm very comfortable. I would have liked to have sat on that side though.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, too bad it's my seat. So on a scale of 1 to 10, actually before I ask you this question, Sue-Ellan, but I'm going to call you Ellen.
Are you?
Off air, we spoke about what do you get called? Just Sue or Sue-Ellan? And she's never been called Ellen before.
No, never.
So this is the first and only time you probably ever got called Ellen. I'm going to call you Ellen.
Nice to meet
Ellen?
you. My name's Ellen.
They're shaking heads.
A scale of 1 to 10.
Yes.
How are the nerves right now?
I'm okay. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
No, you guys are great.
That's not a number. I need a number.
Oh, no. I'm going to go 7.
Ooh,
7. Okay. We'll bring that down as we move on. I'm really, really honoured that you agreed to do this because both Nicho and I have been to separate Little Legs fundraising events this year, and I think we were both really blown away by your strength, by your commitment to this cause that, again, we'll get into in a little bit. You know, we got coffee before this and you also said that any opportunity to tell this story, and particularly the story of your daughter Allegra, is one that you'll take with both hands. So
definitely.
Yeah, thank you for making the time.
No, thank you both for having me.
You're welcome.
We start all of these conversations by reflecting on a win and a challenge from the week gone by. We never put our guests in the hot seat first, let you ease into it. So Nicho, I'll go to you. What is your win and challenge?
Okay, so I like to start my challenge first. My challenge was I went to Newtown Jets home game because it's our reserve grade team, the Jets, and we like to go and support the boys play, and it was a big event on. The hill was full of supporters and they had the tents up with a lot of beer, the wine, and a lot of food. Don't think it was a beer and wine fest, but it was I think it was their Pride sort of round.
Oh, cool.
Don't quote me on that, people, but I took my dog. So I took my dog for the first time. I did not want to take him. I sort of did, but I was like, you know what, there's going to be a lot of people and he hasn't been around that many people at one time before. And Toby, my teammate, was like, no, let's bring him. And then he chased him around and had a bone in his mouth and grabbed him and shoved the bone out of his mouth. And anyway, we got him in the car. We took him and he was running around having a great time because Toby's dog was there as well. And then for those of you that's seen this happen, a couple of people did see it and I was a bit embarrassed by it. But so we had some food and Toby gave him some bread and I was like, no, don't feed him too much bread. Like I don't want my dog getting full on bread. And Toby went to take the bread out of his mouth and he just went nuts. Like he's seen red, Brax did. And he started like he sort of bit Toby. Then I whacked him. I said, no, you can't do that, Brax. And he started attacking me and he drew blood out of me too. And
he's only 3 months old, FYI.
Yeah,
this is
40
crazy.
weeks. And like I was so scared. I was like, what am I going to do? Like I don't want to dog that's going to be so aggressive and go after people. And I took him away from everyone and calmed him down. He was all good and he's been sweet ever since. But I'm pretty sure it was because Toby took a bone out of his mouth 45 minutes earlier.
Yeah, okay.
And then took his a sandwich out of his mouth 45 minutes later. So he was just fed up with people taking food out of his mouth. But he's been great since. So I've been a bit of a scared dog owner because I hate confrontation with dogs when they go after each other. So I've always been like, I don't think I want a dog. But so this has been my first challenge with Brax. But my win would be I went on the Mark Hughes Foundation Beanie for Brain Cancer walk this morning to kick off the round in the NRL. I know this will be a couple of weeks later from it, but ironically, we get to have a really good conversation with you now and your troubles with brain cancer, obviously. And yeah, it was just cool to go experience that again. I love getting around that and the cause. It's a great cause and the round in the NRL. So all really good people have cool conversations on the walk too. And I know Marlee's trekked it on one of the walks and got on the pussy bus, but anyway,
I've done
it was
two walks. And on the second one that was for the Mark Hughes, I did not get on the bus at all. Thank you very much.
But yeah, so I've got to have a really good conversation with you now. So I'm excited to hear more about it. But Marlee, what's yours?
My challenge, can I say actually, coming into this conversation and knowing that we do wins and challenges, I know of a challenge that I felt this week and a bit of a down moment and whatever. But I think because I know this story that I'm going to hear from you, we're going to share, like every challenge feels like nothing in comparison. And so I think that, I want to be honest in the sense that I know in the scheme of things, the little bumps in the road that we have really mean nothing. And I think we share them on this show because it's a way of kind of just pushing it aside, going, that was not a nice moment or I didn't feel good in that moment. Yeah. But, life goes on and we're going to be okay. My challenge is so stupid. It's really dumb, Sue-Ellan. I feel embarrassed that I'm even saying this to you.
Please don't.
On Saturday, I said this to you, Nicho. I was going out with my friends and I changed my outfit about 10 times. And I just was having one of those days where I listened to another podcast called Celebrity Memoir Book Club. There's these funny American girls who are comedians and they talk about having an ugliest girl in the world attack, where you just having a day when you feel rubbish and you think you're the ugliest girl in the world. And I said to Nicho, I'm having an ugliest girl in the world attack. And it was just so stupid, but it was really frustrating me. And I've just been really I don't know, maybe just having a weird moment with either how I look or what my clothes are like at the moment. And I was feeling rubbish about myself, but I said it out loud and then that's how I let it go. And I feel a lot better now, but that was my challenge for the week. And my win was spending some really quality time with a few different groups of friends. Yes, friends plural, Nicho, I do have them. Finally. Over the weekend, I got to see some people that I don't get to see that often and just making the effort to go and see them and spend time together and do something fun is something that I think that I have a tendency to kind of push to the back of priorities. So I'm very glad that I did that and had a good weekend.
I was very glad you done that too, and then didn't have to put up with you in my house all weekend.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, well, and we also live together.
Yeah.
So we've spoken enough already. What's your win and challenge of the week?
Well, can I pick today as both?
Okay.
Yeah.
You
can do what you want.
Not going to tell me
world is your oyster.
You can do whatever you want.
Well, it's a win because I'm here and obviously I get to share my daughter and her story. And then it's also a challenge for me because I think when you feel so much you're so passionate about something, you're always mindful that you're going to get something wrong along the way, right? And I always just have her in the back of my mind. And I always want to do her proud because really she should be here telling her own story. And the greatest representation of someone is actually themselves. Yeah. So do you know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah. And I struggle with that because – and even just because I don't know. It's hard. It's all hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all hard, even through the laughs and the events we obviously have and all the rest of it. At the end of the day, we're always going home without her. So that's my challenge. I think that's my life's challenge now.
Yeah, well,
maybe not just today, but yeah.
Just
that's the reality.
I know I gave you some shit about being nervous, but you're in a really, really safe place right now.
Yeah, I know.
We want you to feel as comfortable as you can, and it's your story to tell. And regardless of how you tell it, she's going to be very proud of you for coming out here and talking to us and inspiring a lot of people who are going to be listening. So, yeah, well, obviously, thanks for coming on. But, yeah, you're in a safe place right now, and hopefully we can make you feel at ease.
I feel that definitely, yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. No, and thank you for coming and sharing in however way that unfolds today because, it is, as you said, so hard. And I'm also conscious of the fact, this show is called When We Grow Up.
Yeah.
And we, with our guests, always get them to reflect on what their younger selves would think and quite aspirational and talk about what they would tell their younger selves now and all this kind of stuff. And the fact of the matter is today the story that we're going to tell is about your daughter who, is robbed of the chance to grow up.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that to set the context then for listeners, what today is about is talking about the life and legacy of Allegra and what the work that you're doing now with Little Legs to hopefully help other children who are diagnosed with brain cancer have the chance to grow up.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I think that's half of, well, I'm not going to say half, I'm not going to measure it. It's part of what drives us each day to continue her legacy, the fact that she isn't given the opportunity to do so herself. And she was here for 6 years, and obviously 6 years are not enough. But I just think life took that away from her, and it's my job as her mum to make sure she lives on.
Yeah. And
we do that through the foundation.
Yeah. Well, I asked you to share a few photos that we will speak to.
Yep.
And Nicho, you're on the controls.
Pardon?
You're on the controls.
That is right, everybody. I'm on the controls because I'm the alpha of this podcast.
There was a fight for it.
No, there wasn't. No.
Well, you're a mum of 3 kids, so you probably were ready to step in and stop the fighting if it happens. But
can I just say I love that you said that?
Yes.
That I'm a mum of 3 kids.
You are. You always will be.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm definitely very conscious of
that. troubles some people sometimes.
Well done, Marlee.
Oh, just
Proud
very
of you
conscious
for
of that. So the first photo we're going to bring up is of your 3 children.
Oh, yes.
Hold on a sec. Just to reinforce, I'm on the controls.
He's got a keyboard and he's flicking, so it's the first time we've had control of bringing up the photos.
Have you ever seen, what's it called? Rob Dyrdek? Do you know that show?
Oh, yes.
Ridiculousness.
Yes.
Like, that's me on there right now. I'm in control. Yeah. Anyway, without further ado.
Yes.
They are.
This
3
photo.
beautiful children.
Yes.
And why don't you start by telling us who we see there and at what point in time this was?
Okay, so this would have been, we were at our old house. So this was probably a year before she was diagnosed, so 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Allegra's our eldest.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Emanuela and Strat.
Yeah. 3 beautiful babies there.
Yes. And I hate that they don't have more photos together, to be honest with you. That's one thing I think people should take from this. You can't have enough photos.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Mm-hmm. But they're my saving graces.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
And tell us, what, like you said, it's a year before Allegra was diagnosed.
Yeah.
What was life like then? You guys are just a regular family going through the motions?
Yeah, just regular. To be honest, you forget what life was like without the pain of even just the diagnosis. I think just massive denial. You'd never think something bad's going to happen to your child. Like, we always have our worries and all the rest of it, but even like you'll go, I don't know, on their bikes and you're not really going to anticipate them falling over, but if they do, like, you can make it better.
Yeah.
Allegra, she didn't even have many symptoms. It was just the one symptom, which was just a slight facial paralysis. So when she smiled, her smile just kind of went more to one side. But even with that, it was just like, okay, well, there's obviously something wrong. We'll go to the doctor. It'll get fixed. And for a couple of months, we thought we were helping her. And then you get the diagnosis. Well, yeah, you don't think your kid's going to get sick, right? And then they're going to get cancer. And then it's going to be brain cancer. It was just like one thing after another. And then you think, okay, well, my child has brain cancer, but there's no way she's not going to make it.
Yeah.
I probably still live in denial sometimes, to be honest with you. I don't know if that's a coping mechanism or what, But anyway, we were very happy, and happy looks very different now.
Yeah.
We don't take any happiness away from our other children. We have our critics. It's unfortunate that I can measure them using both my hands. But a lot of what we do is for them as well, most definitely. Just keeping her alive for them, I suppose.
I'm interested to say that you have critics. Is that people?
People openly telling me that maybe I should concentrate on the children that are here and not the one that's not. That's why I said to you, I love that you said I'm a mum of 3. So like I've said, she was robbed of her life. Why would I just stop being her mum? Like that makes no sense to me.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
That makes no sense.
I feel that people say things thinking they're helping, but obviously they're not. And I assume it all comes from a lovely place.
Yeah.
But I just don't see. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand.
We'll get into that when we talk about the establishment of the foundation and I guess the challenges that come with having a public face when you're talking about this enormous hole that now exists in your life.
Yeah.
But I'd love to know, looking at these 3 babies, what was Allegra like as a big sister?
The best.
Yeah.
She was always the one to make them laugh, always the one to console them as well. They absolutely adored her and still do. Yeah, they talk about her every day. Like they're just they really are, even though they have been separated, they truly are inseparable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what was Allegra like? What did she love?
Oh, look, she was just the kindest little girl,
Sharks?
honestly. She loved the sharks. Yes, she chose her very own team. She absolutely adored them. She loved The Little Mermaid, so it was kind of fitting.
I love The Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Ariel was her favourite princess. She honestly had an old soul. So she would could not walk into a room without greeting everyone, and then she couldn't leave a party without saying goodbye to everyone, something her father hated. Because he's like the first backdoor, see you later. And she was like, and even if she thought she forgot someone and we were in the car, we had to go back.
Oh.
Yeah, just she was very fair though. She was very fair, especially with the siblings. I remember they would try and obviously play with her things, and obviously she was just only a couple of years older than her sister, but obviously at those different ages they play with different things. And she'd never fight with them. She would just say to them, like she'd just reason with them. Wow. And it was weird because she was 3.5.
Yeah.
And she'd just be like, oh, like, would you like it if I touched your things?
Yeah.
And then they'd be like probably thinking, what the hell is she saying? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well.
Yeah.
And then everyone would just move on. Like
how mature.
She was very, very mature for her age. Yeah.
So we got to talk about why she became a Sharks supporter.
Oh, yes.
Because you were saying to us, your husband is a dragon.
He is a dragon, born and bred. He lived in the St. George area. So she came home from preschool in March of 2016. So the season had just started. And she said to her dad, look, I don't think I want to be a dragon anymore. And Marino was very upset.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. What do you mean? There is no other team. And then she said, look, a friend of mine actually said at school today that I need to be a bulldog if I'm going to be her friend. Yes. To which Marino, so are you a bulldog?
Yeah. So for the fleeting moment, we had her. But
hold on a second. You just said you're a bulldog. In our latest podcast, you literally just said that you've changed to be a shark.
Yeah, I know, but I still, of course, have a little bit
You can't say yes, and then you just told every listener that listens to us that you're a shark now.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
So what are you?
I am a shark now. Yes. I just like,
Yeah, just picking and choosing when she's a shark or a bulldog.
Well, much like Allegra, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I'll only allow it just because of Allegra right now, but
there you go.
Marlee, I've got to have a word to you after this.
Love it.
Anyway, as you were.
Yeah, so her friend obviously said, you need to be a bulldog. So she was torn when she came home that afternoon. And I said to her, look, at the end of the day, it's up to you. You do what you want to do. Do you want to be a dragon? Do you want to be a bulldog? And she's like, no, I don't want to be either. She goes, I want to be a shark.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the year they were premiers. So I always thought she was kind of their lucky charm.
For sure.
And hopefully a lucky charm for this year now.
Definitely.
We've brought it to light again.
That's right.
Manifest it now.
Yeah, why not?
Yep.
Definitely.
Sure. Yeah. That's really cool. And it is nice to get a bit of a picture of the kind of person that she was.
Can I ask, did she have a dream or what did she want to be when she grew up?
A teacher.
Teacher? School teacher?
Yeah.
Nice.
I wanted to be a teacher.
Yeah.
She did.
And hearing her being that real fair fair
Yeah.
person, good
Yeah.
diffusing the situation. She would have been an amazing
I always
teacher.
think that like when young kids want to be a teacher when they grow up, it speaks volumes of who they are because they just want to help people and
Yeah,
you know what
for
I mean.
sure.
So
Definitely.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the point of diagnosis, which you kind of touched on.
Yeah.
When did you start noticing that, as you said, that one symptom?
So it was October 2016. It was just like when I'd take photos of her more so, and then just kind of looking back at them as you do through your phone. And I said to Marino, I said, look, I don't know, it just something just felt off for me. So we did take her to the GP, and the GP said to us, oh, she's got Bell's palsy. Which I understood because after I actually gave birth to her, I got Bell's palsy.
Oh,
it's
wow.
apparently very common post-childbirth.
Yeah.
Body obviously just goes into some sort of a shock without realising. And, yeah, like I was on steroids. It took me months to recover from it. So I was like, okay, like that was enough for me. Then she was doing like acupuncture. We did like face exercises and things like that. Then December was nearing, well, it was December, sorry, and we had organised to go like on a family holiday with Marino's family for Christmas. And I just said to Marino, look, I think I'm just going to take her back. Like it's not any better, but it wasn't any worse either. Anyway, he was like, you're being ridiculous. I'm like, no, whatever. Let me just take her back. We took her and our GP said, look, maybe we should just send her for an MRI. Still, I'm massive denial, right? I'm like, okay, whatever, book her in for an MRI. So we went the next morning and I don't even think we made it out of the MRI. My GP had already called me on my phone. But in saying that, I'm a very nervous person. So I still thought in my head, oh, she's calling me just to ease me. Like she was like, well, come in to surgery and we'll have a chat. I was like, oh, okay, cool. She just wants to tell me everything's okay. Mind you, if you had an MRI?
Yep.
Okay, can you imagine a 5-year-old little girl in an
Nuts.
MRI and awake?
Yeah. Especially on your head, like that's nuts.
Yeah. So I went back to the GP, she opened the door and I could tell she had been crying. My heart absolutely sank. And she just said, oh, look, I've called ahead. The Children's Hospital's waiting for you. And still I'm like cancer just did not factor in at all. Anyway, I'd obviously driven to the GP. I called Marina. I said, look, I don't think I can actually drive. Can you come get us? So he came, got us. We went to Randwick, Sydney Kids, and then they wanted another MRI. They needed to put the dye in, obviously, because they hadn't done that the first time round. We were met with, well, we're in emergency still. Allegra, but at this stage I'd called my parents. My sister was there too. So they hung out with her and this doctor said, oh, we've got to like see you in another room. So I'm like, okay. Mind you, it is like a quarter of the size of this room. It's the smallest room. Like it feels like a panic room. And they fill it with 20 other people.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like they come in with a team and it's, like now looking back on it, there's just so much that needs to change. But when you're in that moment, I think you're obviously still in shock as well. You have a doctor telling you that she's got something that's not going to see her through to her next birthday. So she had just turned 5 September and you're still in denial because it's like, okay, we need to obviously speak to someone else. Like this isn't good enough. So she had DIPG, which is diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma, which is probably the worst of the worst. Something I didn't admit to, even like to myself, like back then. It's in your brainstem. So the best way that it was described to us was it's like a cabling. So you've got your cable and inside it like it's basically all your vitals. So your breathing, your heart rate. And this tumour, whilst Allegra's did have a focal component, the majority of it was intertwined in all the cabling. So the only thing that they offer you is radiotherapy. In saying that, the first thing they offer you is just to go home and make memories. Which obviously is not good enough. So Marino and I, while we were there with Allegra, we obviously then families started finding out and all the rest of it. My sister was to be married 2 weeks later. She cancelled her wedding. Yeah, whilst we were in there, people were like, oh, you need to find Charlie Teo. And whilst we had heard of him, obviously never really taken much note of who he was and what he did and all the rest of it, we were like, okay, we'll find him. At the Sydney Kids, they're all connected, all the hospitals. So he was at Prince of Wales Private at that time. They talk about false hope, especially with Charlie. And I just don't think that there is such a thing as false hope. You're always going to live in hope that you're going to find a better solution to anything. Okay, I should just put a disclaimer in that when I'm speaking, it's obviously my opinion, right? Yeah. Because I don't want to offend anyone, and obviously other people have gone down different roads and all the rest of it. Things have worked out, not worked out. Everyone has their own journey. I'm very mindful of that. But I think when a doctor looks at you, it's not their fault, because obviously you cannot win with me in this situation, right? Definitely. I'm always going to hate you.
Yeah, of course.
So if a doctor's looking at me, no emotion, telling me, you know what, just take her home and maybe go on a holiday if you want, but if I'm able to seek someone else, even if his opinion was exactly the same, there shouldn't be a drama.
No.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's my right as this child's parent.
You do anything you can.
To be able to get a second opinion. When the opinion I'm being given isn't for me personally. Anyway, obviously we were adamant. So we called the office, and this is now 21st of December. So everyone's on holidays, right? The doctors at Sydney Kids were telling us, oh, don't bother with him. He's always out. He's always on holiday. Oh, he's always overseas, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we rang. We spoke to his beautiful receptionist, Lane. And she's like, yeah, I'm in the office. I'm always in the office. I'll direct you. Bring up her disc. So we took it up. That afternoon, we met with Charlie.
Wow.
Charlie said there is a focal – he obviously was – he was very honest with us about what she had. There was a focal component, so he could remove that focal component. That we went with that option, obviously.
So when you're describing a focal component, is that a mass?
That's right.
So that's the cancerous mass.
Yeah, that's right. Which is obviously still attached to all the rest of it that's intertwined, but he's able to remove that. So whilst I don't know that we'll ever know, did he buy her more time? Because I should say DIPG has a prognosis of 9 to 12 months. Did he buy her more time? I don't know. But what I do know now, coming out of this and obviously going down the road of a foundation and needing to fund researchers and all the rest of it, without some sort of biopsy, you don't know what the tumour is. There's hundreds of different types and everyone has their own individual tumour. So there's no way of fighting it. Do you know what I mean? Unless someone has been able to go in and remove some of it so it can be tested. It's just a ripple effect. If you're – I just don't understand how you can put these kids in a basket. It's just too hard. Stats haven't changed in over 35 years. There's obviously funding happening. Clearly it's not going to the right people. Sorry. Do you know what I mean? I think there has to come a point – I know I'm chopping and changing. But there has to come a point where, okay, everyone needs to admit this isn't working.
Did you – I'm just guessing you would have asked all these questions, but why is this happening to my daughter? How does a brain tumour just randomly pop up?
They don't have an answer.
It just happens.
It's not genetic. We all get tested for anything that we may have all shared or, whatever. They actually just don't know. And that's what I can't understand. So brain cancer kills more children in Australia than any other disease. More young adults than any other cancer.
How do we not know why yet? It's just so unfair.
$1 million question,
This can't happen to families and people. I just don't get it. Me
neither. And we're living the nightmare. So
Nicho, I might get you to bring the next photo up, which you said to me when you sent it was the first one that came to mind. And honestly, it gave me, I don't know, goosebumps the right word, but it certainly made me feel very emotional for you. It's you. Are you going into surgery? And I think just for a bit of my own personal context, Sue-Ellan, whenever I hear stories like this, sorry, I'm going to get emotional for you. But
please do not apologise ever.
When you lose someone you really care about to cancer, there's so many unanswered questions. And then some of the worst part is the treatment and watching them go through that. And I just knowing like a really close family friend of mine died of melanoma, and she had leptomeningeal melanoma, which ends up being this kind of like a film of cancer over your brain. And it has completely changed me as a human being and her family and everything. And I just can't even imagine what it was like for you to watch your beautiful daughter go through that. And I just think like to hear you say like going through that process and the things haven't changed in the research and all this sort of stuff, it just must be so infuriating for you.
And
devastating. But then sorry, I looking at this photo of you and Allegra about to go in, like when you look at it now, what was going through your head?
I was scared. I think it just comes back to obviously being her mum and, you know, when they fall over, you can kiss her to make it better. And it was just that feeling of having to surrender her, I suppose, to what was actually happening and to the hands of someone else who needed to fix her. And then, I don't know, I even just love her face in this. She had no idea, which is how we kept it anyway. We never told her exactly what she had. Okay. She just always thought she had Bell's palsy. There were so many times that she would just wake up crying. She was obviously in pain or I don't even know what was going through her head half the time. She was just always, she just didn't let the disease define her, if that makes sense. But yeah, like even her just waking up in the middle of the night being really upset and she'd be crying saying, I wish I didn't have Bell's palsy. And in my head I was like, I wish you did. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like it was just so, it was just a constant battle of emotions. But yeah, it's a child though, right? Innocent?
Yep.
Yeah.
This might be off topic, but how come you have to wear the white and the blue
I don't know.
thing?
They just prep you like that to
hygiene.
Just take her
So
in.
were you
That's
in
all
there
they did.
for the whole time? No.
Oh God, no.
No,
No.
that would have been.
I just took her in, and then it was until she went under, like the anaesthetic, obviously, and then I left.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so this is when Dr. Charlie Tilo.
Yes, this is when he operated on her.
And how was he through the process?
Fantastic. He we're still very good friends with him. Look, for him, she was Allegra. She wasn't just another kid that got diagnosed. He was mindful of being in the moment, I think, as well. Yeah, with her.
Do you think going through, I guess a health journey like this, there is that maybe disconnect sometimes where, like what you guys, I guess what you're describing is Allegra being seen as a patient versus as a human.
Yeah.
And I always wonder about, sort of that ripple effect and going through that journey as a family as well. Yeah. Like you're going through that treatment too. How important is that support? And do you think that that's spoken enough about?
No, it's probably not.
Families?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. And like I've said, it's something that keeps coming up. Like it's not just our experience. Yep. It's others that, agree with us. And I think a lot needs to change in that aspect. I just don't know that that's my fight though.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's just an important part to point out.
Definitely. And like I said, no one's ever going to win with a parent if they're being told such devastating news. And I'm trying to be very mindful of everything. But in saying that's also not my responsibility. And we can't apologise for getting emotional. And for seeking something better.
Can I ask, and I could be completely off topic here or not, but like I've heard in circumstances in like these where sometimes families or the mother or the father look at their children and can't really look at them like your other children, why you're going through this, or they resent their children because they want to be there for your daughter or because they're going through so much. Like your daughter reminds you see them in, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, do you know how like there's such a, I don't know how to explain it, but like how is your other kids through this and your hubby, and did you like avoid them at certain times because you just wanted to be in hospital the whole time, or could you, you know what I mean? I don't know how to explain that.
No,
what
I know
I'm trying
what
to
you're
say.
saying. So we've always had a really good support network. Yeah. And we had just moved into the same suburb as my parents, so they were always pretty much on call. The other two were very young. So Allegra was she was 5 diagnosed, which means the others were 3 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In saying that, they remember things from back then, especially when we brought her home the last time. Yeah, they remember things and they reflect on a lot when it comes to her. And I think because we've always kept her. Okay, I don't even know how I'm going to answer this question. Sorry.
I didn't really ask the question very
No,
well.
but I understand
yeah.
where you're going. Are you asking if they feel not left out?
Yeah, like sort of. Would
Yeah.
you sometimes like I can't even, like I love you guys so much, but I can't look at you right now. Like I've just, I'm just.
But no, it's not so much that. No, definitely not that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I do find is the kids have probably gotten away with a lot more
Yeah, right.
than what they would have because I suppose we've been as low as this.
Yep.
If they play up a bit, like if anything, they've gotten away with a lot.
Yeah.
It changes your perspective because you worry about how much time you have together, right?
Well, exactly that too. And I'm not going to spend the time fighting with them.
Yeah.
Or, do you know what I mean? For me, it's just like, okay, we'll obviously discuss it. I'm not going to completely ignore something.
Yeah.
But, you know, we move on from things a lot easier.
Yeah.
My son, so he was only 2.5 when she passed. He's probably the most sensitive to having lost Allegra. My Emanuela has taken on like a double sister role. She was always very motherly. That was just her character. He hates it. And I actually say to Marina, good luck when he gets a girlfriend. They're going to have trouble. They've only got the year apart, right?
Yeah.
So
she's protective.
Yeah, she'd like just dotes over him. Like we'll pick him up from school and she's carrying his bag. And I'm like, no, he can carry his own bag.
That's so cute.
But yeah, he's the boy with the big questions. So he has asked, you know, why doesn't she get to get married? Like that's obviously how he, like instead of saying why isn't she still here, it's like why doesn't she get to be married and have a family? And it's always questions I can't answer.
Yeah.
I think it's only been this year that he hasn't cried for her every night.
Oh,
yeah. He gets good help. He's but yeah, I don't know, it's always like at that sleep time.
Yeah.
Like we'll always say a little prayer to her every night. Even today, he's you know, he's my biggest fan. They both are. They all are. But today, because he knows how nervous I get, and I probably don't make it not obvious. Yeah. He actually said to me today, "You got this." And I'm like, how do you know? Like, I can't just say that. And he's like, no, you got this. He goes, you love talking about Allegra. I go, yeah, I do. And then he's like, just remember, she's always with you. And I said, yeah, I know she is. Like, thank you. He's like, no, she's on you. You've got her fingerprint. And when she passed, so I did my fingerprint and her fingerprint as a love heart, and they blew it up, obviously, and I got a tattoo of it. But the odd thing about this child is, like, I did that 6 years ago.
Yeah, wow.
And it's like nothing now. Like I don't even think, like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the fact that he just holds on to everything, and I love the fact that he sees meaning in everything and there's a purpose. Do you know what I mean?
Wow. That's so special.
And I think we've taught them that as well with what we're doing. That's why the foundation's very much about all of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it can often be like we always look at kids as being sort of that super vulnerable and
definitely,
but they can often be our places of strength.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
That's an amazing perspective. Before we just get on to sort of where the foundation and stuff came from. So after this surgery, am I right in saying that Allegra was able to start kindergarten?
Yes. That was like her biggest thing.
Yeah.
Of all the 3 kids, she's the only one that actually wanted to go to school. She was prepped like when she was 1. Like she was that's just what she always spoke about, and that's probably why she wanted to be a teacher as well.
Yeah.
But so yeah, she was very excited. We had already bought her uniform and all the rest of it, so she had all that set up. And then she started in January. So yeah, kindy. And she loved it. So, but while she was starting out was when she was doing treatment.
Okay.
So we would pick her up. She made sure that all the appointments were always after school. So she never missed a day of school. We picked her up like 3 o'clock, whatever it was, and just went straight to Randwick, and that's where she had her radiotherapy. So she had 30 treatments consecutively, like during Monday to Friday. So it went for like 30 days. Yeah, they were hard, especially first prepping her for treatment. So I don't know if you've seen, they apply like a mask over you.
I have seen that.
But it starts off as a flat board, which is then somehow softened, which I don't know how soft it was. I don't think it was that soft. And then obviously, because they're not allowed to move, obviously, because radiotherapy is very targeted. Most kids her age and even older were put to sleep every day. Allegra didn't want to get put to sleep. She was a very focused child. She's a Virgo, so very organised. Okay, there you go. Very organised. So she just had everything kind of set out. Yep. So she was determined to get through it. Obviously scared the crap out of her as well at the same time. Yeah, just getting that mask put onto your face and literally pushed and moulded onto it. Oh, God. That was a really hard day. And her oncologist said it normally takes kids 3 to 4 days. I actually feel like saying, how is there not a better way?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Like, if you're anticipating 3 to 4 days of this.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah, sorry. She started treatment. She had to be in a room by herself, which even though I do understand at that point, I really don't give a crap if I get somehow affected by do you know what I mean? Like, anyway, so she was just on a big metal bed, lay down with the mask bolted into the table that she was lying on. But she did, I think it was like maybe 20 to 30 minutes at a time. And we would speak to her over the mic. She'd pick stories for us to read to her, like as she got more comfortable, obviously. Yeah. But she got through it. She obviously had her symptoms, but it was just, she just took everything in her stride. Yeah, wow. Like she was such a strong little girl.
So from the point of diagnosis to when she passed away, was it 10 months?
10 months, that's right. Yeah. So after she finished radio, her smile then went back to normal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so she had the op and then, her smile went back to normal and we were like, this is obviously working, and it was. She had seen the doctors end of July for her checkup. She saw Charlie as well, so they went through all her scans. They like to look at them from the very first to the very end instead of just kind of what happened last time. And it had significantly reduced.
Yeah, wow.
So we were all like, like we're winning, right?
Yep.
Took her home. A week later, she just woke up screaming. And we were just like, what's wrong? I thought maybe she was having a nightmare. Like, she's like, no, my back really hurts. So we gave her Panadol, Nurofen. Sorry, my heart is beating so fast. Yeah. But so we gave her the Panadol and Nurofen, and it just wasn't working. So I called the hospital. They suggest. So this is the thing with when kids get sick, right? That's their only choice. Even though she was operated privately, even ICU, she had to go into ICU Sydney Kids. I don't understand the logic behind it.
You have to go in there and you can then be moved on, or you're there and that's it?
Well, so after she was operated on, they wanted her to stay. Charlie said, get her out of there.
Yep.
So she only stayed one night in ICU, which freaked us out because my child's just had brain surgery. How are we going home the next day?
Yeah.
But Charlie was on call. That was all fine.
Yeah.
Him and his fellow. It was just, they were just trying to push drugs on her. To be honest with you, they had the station nurse had a list of drugs. She needs this, she needs that. And we're talking to Charlie on the phone. And he's saying, don't let them give her anything. She doesn't need anything. She's only going to need a steroid like for the inflammation for a few days. And they're going, no, she has to be on it for months. That's why if you see photos of some children, their face blows up.
Yeah.
And we were just like, anyway, we obviously had all our trust in Charlie. Yeah. And I was saying to him, so why she's like, obviously my kid's had brain surgery. She needs medication. And he's like, no, your brain has no nerve endings. She has no pain from her brain.
Oh, wow, yeah.
The only thing would be the little incision that he did behind her ear. Does that not blow your mind?
Yeah. You don't even think about that.
So I'm like, you know what? Yeah, we're getting out of here. Like the next day, the first 24 hours are obviously crucial. She needs that support.
Yeah.
But we were gone.
Right. Yeah, wow.
Sorry, I deflected.
No, that's
What
all
were we
right.
saying?
But when Allegra's back was hurting a few.
Yes, okay.
months
So,
ago.
yeah, her back was hurting. We spoke to the head nurse of oncology because she was considered an outpatient. And she said, it's fine. Give her, what was that? I think it's Pain Away.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I remember thinking, why am I giving her something that
Like
footballers use?
yeah, muscular. Yeah, wow.
And I'm like, okay. So we
Was
gave it to
it's
her.
not Voltaren, is it?
Yeah. Kind of same vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is
Muscular.
similar.
It's
Yeah,
about
that's
muscular.
right. Yeah. So anyway, then she tried getting out of bed the next morning and she was hunched over. She couldn't straighten her back up. So I took her to our GP and she's like, well, this is clearly not normal. I'm still in denial. And she said, just take her to Sydney Kids. So we went back to emergency. Her oncologist came through again with his 50 people. And he said, oh, we're going to need to have another chat. So this room just becomes like I actually don't want to go in that room.
Yeah.
Thanks. I'll be right. I'll
Trauma.
stay out here. They give you like this little tissue box. And then you obviously have your social worker looking at you thinking they're going to solve your problems. Like, I know I'm being mean, but it's true.
But can I say, I know that you keep doing this thing where you're sort of conscious of whatever, but that rawness and that vulnerability, like you said, this is your opinion, your perspective and whatever. I think it's important for people who haven't been through this to hear that there's so much in the process and the whole experience that the most of us don't hear or understand.
Yeah.
So I think that, again, people will be able to hear in your voice and the way that you're telling it how hard this is and maybe think about some areas where it could be a little bit easier.
Definitely.
So I think that's important. And you don't need to worry about sounding upset because I think any of us who hear someone who has to go through this, like, far out, I don't even know how you can, have any kind of positivity in your life. So
can't.
it's a big
no,
journey.
It's true.
Yeah.
Very true. So so they had sent her for an MRI and that's when the doctor came to see us again. And he said, it's not good. And we were like, what are you talking about? We were here last week. You told us she was doing so well.
Yeah.
How has something changed? And he said, no, it seems that a cell had become aggressive and had actually fallen into her spinal fluid. And there's nothing that can be done. We spoke to Charlie and his fellow as well, and they were in agreement. It had obviously gotten to the point that they couldn't help her. So they wanted us to stay. They said, look, it's escalating, so I think she needs to stay in over the weekend because she's not going to make it through. And I was like, no, I really don't want to be here. I'd rather her come home and we'll deal with it then there. I want her siblings, obviously, and I just want her, if it's going to be the end, I want her to be in her own house. Sorry.
You're right.
Anyway, so they sent a whole team of people to check that we were okay to look after her and all the rest. Pisses you off as well because it's like, anyway, everyone's got a job to do, right? We took her home. They told us she had a couple of days. She was with us for 7 weeks.
Wow.
So, and I honestly believe if we had stayed in hospital, she probably wouldn't have stayed so long. One question her brother always asks is, did she know she was going to die? The answer's, for me, no. We never told her. She could obviously feel her body shutting down. So she ended up being paralysed, like from obviously her back hurting. She was in a wheelchair. We had a hospital bed at home and slowly, obviously, she wasn't able to move other parts of her body. So even her neck at one point, she was just stationed in one position. I think she's probably the most intelligent person I've ever met for her age.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying that because I'm a mum.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine she didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think it's something that we'll only understand when we're at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. In saying that, I did say to her one night that I was really sorry that she wasn't able to do the things she loved, because she loved to draw. Even just the remote control, like holding it. And that's when I realised, shit, this is serious. Like she couldn't press onto what show she wanted to watch. Yeah. What was I saying? God. Yeah, no, I said I was sorry that she couldn't do the things she wanted to do. And she actually just looked at me and she said, it doesn't matter. And I was so angry. And I just wanted to shake her and say, what do you mean it matters? Like, do you know what I mean? Let it matter. But she was just like, it doesn't matter. The world has honestly missed out on the most incredible person. And I hate that people don't get to meet her. And that's what drives me as well, because I want everyone to know her. And if this is how it obviously had to work out for her, it's my job to continue her life. Yeah. And make her passing actually mean something. Fathers. I'm not going to apologize because you both should be very upset right now.
No.
But do you know what I mean? Like, it's so like I've always felt like, oh, I'm so sorry, but I can't apologize for my reality.
No. And I'm so sorry that's your reality because it's bullshit. It's just so unfair and like.
It's unfair for her. Look, I don't actually care about how I feel.
Yeah.
I'm fine with not being able to sleep at night. Do you know what I mean? I'm fine because that's when. Anyway, every other thought in the world obviously comes in once everything goes quiet and everyone's in their positions, everyone else is asleep.
Yeah.
I'm okay with all that. My issue is that she was promised a good life. And like I said, 6 years is not enough. She was promised to be able to have an opportunity to become the teacher she wanted to become the mum she wanted to be as well. She was in love. She had a boyfriend. I know it sounds so ridiculous and I would not normally have allowed this at such a young and tender age. But because she had honestly such an old soul, she was absolutely in love with this boy, Paris, and he was in love with her.
Aww.
They met at preschool. I speak to his mum still to today, and till today he draws and he always places a daisy in all his drawings. It's actually the most beautiful thing. So the daisy is obviously part of our logo. And that's one thing, whenever she entered a room, she would end up on the laps of couples, always asking them what their love story was.
Aww.
This is what I was mindful of yet again at the very beginning. Like, I can't do her justice. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You can't encapsulate it all.
You can't because there was a lot.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
What a spirit.
Definitely.
I'm so glad that we can get to know her a little bit through you.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm also conscious of just like sobbing for the rest of the conversation.
That's all right.
So we'll ask you now about the foundation.
Yes.
And when did that first come to life and what do you actually do?
Marina and I obviously sat in silence for a long time. We still do. We have lots of pockets of that. But like I've said, she just had so much more to give to this world. It's given me an opportunity to parent her in the only capacity I've got left. In doing so, I feel like we're just one piece of the puzzle. And late at night, sometimes I do think to myself, if a family before Allegra had done something, like I said, this is my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't want to upset anyone. But you think of everything, right? So everything's quite irrational at times. But I think that's why we do it, so that we know that we have done whatever's been in our power for the family yet to be diagnosed.
Yeah.
Because that's what it is, right? And it's very sad that it needs to be families who are grieving at the same time trying to make a difference.
Yes.
So the government since 2015 has given only $900,000 to DIPG treatment officially.
And is that because they don't have faith in it being able to?
Yeah, that's my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah. We started May 2018, so this year's our 5th year.
Mm-hmm.
We've given just over 1.5 million and mind you, we've had 2 years of COVID with no events. And through our funding, so there are 20 kids each year that get diagnosed with a type of cancer. That's just one type of brain cancer, right, that Allegra had, with a prognosis of 9 to 12 months. Allegra's this year been gone 6 years. Mm-hmm. This is a big year for us because she was with us for 6 and now she's gone for 6. Yeah. So mathematically, based on statistics, that's 120 kids who technically have passed. We've been funding this incredible human, Professor Matt Dunn. He works out of the University of Newcastle. He too lost his daughter Josie to DIPG. He was originally a leukemia researcher. And when Josie got sick, I'm not going to say scrapped that because he's still working in that field, but his focus was on DIPG. So we've been funding him, and through his work, he's opened up a trial, which I think there's 100 kids worldwide on it at the moment. And there's 2 little girls here in Sydney who are surpassing their prognosis at 30 months, which is unheard of worldwide. So I think for us, that comes down to funding the right people. Yeah. And we chose to go through the Charlie Teo Foundation. So obviously Marino and I are no experts. Yeah. So we trust in his scientific advisory committee. Yep. He set up the Allegra's Army grant and we fund that, and then they have researchers obviously apply for that grant, and Matt's one of them.
And it was at the Cocktails for a Cure event that I first saw you speak, and Professor Matt Dunn, did you say?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he was there.
And hearing him, well, I think it wasn't even him who kind of...
I think you've got a photo.
Yes. No,
that's just the army in general.
Yes, I don't think I had the one. From
you didn't?
Sorry,
that's okay.
That was the number of how many kids you lose, what the time frame is, everything, and then hearing it be that these 2 young girls have lasted this long. Like, that is unbelievable. That's very tangible growth and change, and gives you hope.
Definitely, of course.
So, I mean, and we've gone to this third and final photo that we've got here, which is a whole group of people who you call Allegra's Army.
That's right. Yep.
What do they mean to you?
Oh, God, they mean the world to us. So we obviously have a board who help us through our journey. We have a group of ambassadors who are very special to us. So we've got, Luke and Sonia Lewis.
Well, yeah, those ambassadors are the reason that we know about
That's right.
You.
So thank you. Well, thanks to them. Yeah. We've got Alex Perry, Ben Fordham. So Ben Fordham always MCs our...
Oh, Ben's the best.
Yeah, Ben's good. He MCs our galas.
Oh, he's the best.
Alex Perry, play footy?
No, he's a designer. Oh. Beautiful...
Adam Perry, I was thinking of.
Yeah. I was going to say Alex Perry. Have you been looking at Alex Perry dresses, Nicho?
Yeah. Timmy Manor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Timmy
he was at
on board.
the comedy night that night.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, definitely. We've got Charlie, obviously, Charlie Teo, and House of Emmanuel, so the jewelry designer, Emmanuel, and, Sid Tapia. Do you know Sid? Yeah, you will now. Yeah. Because Sid does all the NRL murals. You know, he's done E.T. and Gallon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So the artist. So he was our very first ambassador. Yeah. His daughter Skylar and Allegra were at kindy together. Oh. Yeah, he's been phenomenal as well. But yeah, so amazing group of ambassadors that obviously hold Allegra very close in their hearts. And then we have the extended army, which is obviously all the people that support us. Yeah. Our corporates is along with just everyone. And I think it speaks volumes for who Allegra is.
Yes.
That she has such an incredible support system. Yeah.
And I think that's the point I wanted to make too. Like, so many of Allegra's army never got to meet Allegra.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely. Yeah.
And what an impact.
And just touched by her story and want to make a difference in her honour. Definitely.
Absolutely. What an incredible community that you've built.
Yeah.
In light of such tragedy.
Definitely.
Does it give you hope for, I guess, the change that you can make when you have these people kind of come on board?
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. Definitely.
What have is there any particular conversation that you've had with, you know, some of these people who are your ambassadors or corporates or whatever, when you've seen them, I don't know, be really affected by Allegra? Like, is there any particular story that comes to mind?
I think just whenever I speak about her and then just giving people a greater understanding of who she very much so still is.
Yeah.
I hate saying was.
Yeah.
Because she's the reason, like she's the fire in our belly, right? So she definitely still exists.
Of course.
I think people are just moved by that. But that's love, right? And that's the only thing death can't take from you.
Yeah.
That's the truth. It's a quote that I had read many years ago, but until I was obviously put in this position, I think it's the truth.
I feel like it's a silly question, but I'm sure there are people who are wondering it when they're listening. How do you find the strength to do this? Because, you know, again, before we came into the studio, you were saying that in terms of the running of the foundation, whatever, you're a bit of a one-woman show and you're telling this story all the time, and there's so much heartbreak that goes with it, and that's not easy. And like you said, it's all so hard. How are you doing this?
Because, okay, this is how I'm not going to say justify it because I don't need to justify anything, but if she was here, I'd be brushing her hair, right? So instead of brushing her hair, I'm responding to an email. Or like I'd be spending so much more time with her if she was here. Yeah. So for me, I don't want to lose her time.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I like the way you just put that.
Yeah.
I don't think
Like
I've ever
driving
thought
to
about it like
school.
that.
Yeah, like because a
before.
lot of people have said, I don't know how you do it. If it was me, and I'm like saying, if it was you, what?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of choice.
Yeah.
I don't have a choice other than to do something.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. But it's true. Like why? Yeah, it's a totally different capacity. Nothing that I ever would have ever dreamed of when I gave birth to her. But it just has to be, I think, for me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So people, I'm sure, will be super affected by this story and your passion and what you've already achieved with Little Legs. What's the best way that they can support you in your journey forward?
Well, you can follow us. That'd be lovely.
Yes.
So Little Legs Foundation. We've got a website, llf.org.au. In September, so each year we band together with a group of cafes. We have over 100 Sydney-wide, and they help us celebrate Allegra's birthday. So this year would have been Allegra's 12th birthday. Her birthday's the 19th of September, but we pick the closest weekend. So this year it's the 22nd to the 24th. And on like our socials and obviously on our website, we'll have a map with all different cafes, and we call it Coffee for a Cure. It's gained great momentum, actually. It's really sweet. All the cafes get behind us, and it's such a nice, it seems simple, but it's a lot of work still, but it's a good way of creating awareness.
Yep.
September's also Childhood Cancer Awareness Month.
Yep.
So it's, yeah. So just get behind your local cafe, or if there is a cafe that wants to get on board, definitely there's still time.
Yeah, so could we we've got a cafe around the corner from our house.
Yeah,
if we
definitely.
went to them and had a conversation.
Yeah, for sure. I've
got
got like a
them on board.
proposal and stuff that
Beautiful.
I can pass on. So we give them 8-ounce coffee cups, takeaway cups with our logos or story, depending on what we do. Each year we do something different, and that's how they just sell their coffees out of them. So
Amazing.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's good.
Well, what an incredible story, and an emotional one, and one that I think will sit with people for a long time. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I usually throw to Nicho for the last question of these sorts of things, and I don't know if you saw in the notes, but I did do a little edit of this for you. So I'll leave it to you, Nicho.
Yeah, when you said, I should be upset, like I am upset inside. Like I'm not much of a crier,
No. Yeah.
but I felt like I could have cried a river just then, but I just don't have the tears to come out. I don't know why, but my heart's very touched, and it's unbelievable to hear and how strong you are and how strong your whole family have been. And I just can't believe that so many kind people like yourself have to go through this sort of journey. And people listening, I hope, when you said disclaimer and that, like, they can't judge.
No.
No.
Unless you've walked in those shoes,
that's
like
right.
they have no right to judge anything you've been through, the way you perceive it now and the way you look at it. Like, there's no way in the world anyone could ever be nasty towards you for the way you feel. That's what you've been through. You've lived it. So, I hope no one can ever look at this, right, or listen to this and go, yeah, she can't say that.
Yeah,
no
no,
way
of
in the world.
course. Yeah.
So yeah, don't let that worry at all, because what you've said and what you feel is how you feel and how you've been through it, and you're allowed to do that. So yeah, look, usually I ask the question of looking back at younger self, what would they feel of you right now? But Marlee's come up with something, so I'll read it. She didn't warn me.
No.
Well, I wonder if you might be able to share a piece of advice you've learned on during the last few years about getting back up in the face of hardship or dealing with grief. What advice or lesson that's helped you that you might be able to help others?
I think the simplest thing would be to do it your way. Yeah. There's always going to be someone saying things should be done a certain way, but like you said just before, if you haven't walked in those shoes, it's something Marina always says to me too. It's all about the people in these four walls, right?
Yeah, for sure.
If we're okay with our decisions and how we choose to navigate the rest of our journey, then it shouldn't matter.
100%.
So I think just having confidence in yourself.
Do it your way.
To do, what helps you sleep better at night, really, at the end of the day.
That's all you can do,
and
right?
then gets you up the next morning to do it all over again, because that's probably the biggest struggle.
Yeah. That's great advice, I think.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Sue-Ellan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you so much. I feel very, very honoured to be able to hear you and share you on our platform, and I hope that a lot of people get on the Little Legs journey, become a part of Allegra's army.
Definitely. Can I just say why we're called Little Legs?
Oh, of course. We didn't even talk about that.
That's okay. Legs.
Good one, Marlee.
Legs is Allegra's nickname.
Yes.
So she was always Legs.
Yeah.
So we obviously put little because it's for children.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is great. Great to know. Thank you for listening to what I'm sure was a difficult but important episode of When We Grow Up. Go and follow at Little Legs Foundation on Instagram. Check out the website, as Sue-Ellan said. And when it comes to September, get around Coffee for a Cure. This is something that is devastating for so many families, and if any of us can make a small contribution, hopefully it can continue to make the important change. Thank you for listening to this podcast, being part of these conversations with us. And I don't even want to say subscribe and all that, because really at the end of the day, just share this episode with people.
Yeah, definitely.
I think would be what I want to say.
Create as much awareness as possible, definitely.
For sure. And we'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Thank you.